Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Blokes podcast. Ryan Hassan from the Centre for Healing here, joined as always by Nick Sutherland from Myndfit. Nico, we haven't actually recorded in a while. We've had a lot going on in our lives of late. For those watching on YouTube, they'll see that you're in some sort of different environment than you're normally in. You've got the guns and the tats are out. What's happening, mate? You're not in sunny. Sorry, funny story about Melbourne. I was literally driving past. I was in Seaford yesterday, and it's like we had like 18 degrees and like partly cloudy yesterday. There's a gelato shop in Seaford, and there's like a line all the way down the road. I'm like, fucking Melbourne. Everyone's excited about 18 and partly cloudy. But where are you, Nico? Tell the listeners you've moved up north.
Well, yeah, I'm just recovering a little bit at the moment.
Recovering
Mm.
from what? Your move?
No, I haven't shared this with you. It's quite personal, but a couple of weeks ago I got accosted by a group of mimes, um, and they just did unspeakable things to me.
Is that what you've been holding on to? It's actually pretty good.
I've been hanging on to that for about a month. Oh, it's so good to have that out of my system.
You
I can
feel
actually.
you feel about 10 kilos lighter after letting that go, just energetically.
Mm, hmm Yeah. Oh,
Accosted.
good Lord.
Yeah, that's not a word that we
Yeah.
use much in our common vernacular, is it?
I like to roll with it,
Yeah.
but
Unspeakable things. It's getting funnier. Oh, for
oh,
God's sake. I'm just imagining they're like putting me in a box. You know what I mean? I'm like, there's like four of them, one on each side. Oh, anyway. Okay. Good start. Good start from you, Nick.
start,
That
good
fresh air
start.
up there
Thank
must be
you.
doing you well.
Coming in hot like it is up here. Yeah, so we've made the move. We're in sunny Queensland. Um, on the property known as Acacia. That's what we've called it.
Great name.
Um, and yeah, it's the acacia is the fifth element of the ether, so that exists around everything else. I think I've explained that before on one of the podcasts. And yeah, so we've been up here a couple of weeks now, and she's stinking hot. But yeah, she's warm.
What's the
Oh,
experience like moving your life completely to a place far, far away?
well, people keep saying this. I've done amazing and everything, and that, I guess yeah, when you're in it, you don't really notice it. But yeah, it was. So we did a renovation at our home in Macrae, all downstairs. So we full reno downstairs after we got flooded, and then we had to furnish it and get it ready, the whole house ready for Airbnb because we're Airbnb while we're up here, and then so we had to pack everything in storage, and we had to load a trailer and drive two cars and two dogs and some furniture up here, and the plan for like 7 months was to drive in and have we're building the geodesic domes. I think I've spoken about them on some decks. And the plan was to drive in and see them up in all their glory. And we got here and there was some holes in the ground. That was about it. I was chatting with a client yesterday and said it's like I'm being tested for my black belt in equanimity. It's like I'll be a grand master soon.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, it's these. So you're just seeing clients online now? That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. Well, we've moved from a four-bedroom house to a half-bedroom caravan. We're living in the caravan, so the caravan is my office as well. Dogs are in here wrestling. Um, yeah, and just potting around up the other end. So it's gone from this to this, and Yeah, it's pretty incredible though. Just lots of adjusting. You know, when you build your tradie, it's all these. Nothing ever goes smoothly. There's all these constant problem solving. So, but it's been interesting. The chippy and his offsider and the dome people who are supplying the domes for us and installing them. The both reflected that they keep apologising. They're like, "Oh, you're just the most calm and composed person." And chuckled on the inside. I was like, because the definition of equanimity means to remain calm and composed, especially in a difficult situation. So, you know, the old adage, life gives you the test first and the lesson afterwards. If you don't pass the test, yeah, it feels like we're passing the test. Got bumps and whatever, but
Yeah. And let's say if you don't pass the test, then you're just going to get it again in a different form.
yes. Um, it's WrestleMania down here.
WrestleMania. Oh,
Yeah.
Daisy's going to have the youthful exuberance, and Polly's going to have the experience, the cunningness and guile on her side.
She's the veteran.
The Ric Flair of the duo.
She's the Undertaker.
The Undertaker, yeah.
Totally is. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So it's just amazing at how so many attachments. You notice all these attachments to desired outcomes, or the things being a certain way, or you plan for things and then they don't occur, and you sit there and you notice, I'm feeling a certain way about this, or whatever. So, yeah, it's just been a mixture. Super grateful for being here, being able to be here. Chatted with a client yesterday. You know, the house. You guys are trying to buy a house, get into the housing market again. From last conversation, I remember. And you know the property market's all over the shop. And I was thinking up here, it doesn't seem like there's a keeping up with the Joneses up here. It's really, really interesting. There's not all the flashy, you know, we've downsized. We're living out of a suitcase. We've got the bare minimum. You know, I'm out on the tools pushing wheelbarrows and helping the guys out and whatnot, and then you don't care what you wear. You just grab something and put it on. And there's no what will people think of me, or so yeah. It's just soaking it all up, really, experiencing it.
Yeah. It's those golden handcuffs that we get that, you know, I've definitely had before, where we feel like we have to keep up with our neighbors, our friends, all the people around us. Otherwise our ego takes a hit and we feel deficient in some way. So we get on this path where we, you know, further our career, generally something we're not particularly passionate about, and we start to earn more and more money, but then we use that money to buy these things, which are very surface level materialistic things, in order
and
for
it all need maintaining.
Yeah, hence the handcuffs. Now I've
Yeah.
got all these loans for a car. I've got this fancy house with an extension that I've got a loan for. And now I have to go to this job that I'm not passionate about and put in overtime to pay for all these things that I, at my core, don't really need. But my ego perceives that I need them because I'm going to feel less than in that circumstance. And that doesn't mean that you don't have nice things. Like, here's me, buddy, driving around in a fucking Tesla and having a bunch of toys and stuff. But it's like, it's not part of it. It's okay to have anything, but don't, I guess, make it part of your self-worth. It's like, if all that goes away, am I okay in my tracky pants with a car from the 90s and not much else? And a lot of people definitely do.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's what people say. It's like, what's that? I brought it up on the podcast not long ago. It's that horrible saying. It's like, I'd rather be crying in a Ferrari or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And you ask people, it's like, you know, would you rather be completely content and living in a gutter? And they're like, no. It's like, but you're completely happy and content. That's what we're trying to achieve and gather all these material things for. Yet it's like, no, I don't want to be living in a gutter. It's like, I'd happily be living in a gutter, just blissed out, hugging people and smelling a little bit.
Sounds like you've already made it. So we've sold so much of our materialistic things. I had motorbikes and bits and pieces and whatnot, and camper vans and everything, and it's just slowly been dwindling. We've turned those materialistic assets, I suppose, and invested in the renovation down here and then the build up here. So it's all gone from there and then transferred into here. So and the nest egg we had, that's gone into 60 grand worth of off grid solar and all these other things. Getting off the grid is so expensive. It's just so expensive. Got to put a sewage treatment tank in. It's like 17 grand. It's all these things. But the beauty is, we've worked hard and sacrificed and whatnot, and now we're putting ourselves in a position where, we won't have a power bill, we won't have a water bill, we won't have those bills. So short-term pain, long-term gain, discomfort precedes success. It's, the domes are going up at the moment. I was out last night in the dark. We just had floodlights out, and me and the dome dude were just sitting there having a chat.
His name's Daryl. Daryl, the dome dude.
No, I wish. I'm calling Daryl today.
I wish.
We were out there last night, just knocking the frame up and just chatting about life. And he's a younger dude, but he's interested in all this sort of stuff. So, it's challenging and rewarding at the same time.
What was his take on life, being a young dome dude? What was his?
Oh, he's a real interesting dude. We got talking about what's our parents' generation,
baby boomers.
Baby boomers, yeah, and how their parents were from the war and everything, so they came from nothing. So the baby boomers then this very materialistic generation and get more and have more and be able to have this real sense of deficiency. And then our generation, I think we're sort of tapering off that a little bit. And there's a lot of us getting back to nature and whatnot. The gen after us, which is his generation, it's more about sustainability and the environment and all of that. But then I'm noticing a lot of clients that there's a lot of suffering in young people, 15-year-old girls and the attempted suicides, and we've spoken about before. Am I actually a female? Shout out to the 0.89% of our listeners who are non-binary.
Nick sent me our podcast stats yesterday, and 0.87% of our followers are non-binary. And something else I didn't speak to you about this, Nick. It jumped out to me. Just let me try and bring this up. I believe it's not Finland. I think it was Iceland. So I couldn't see Finland on the top fucking 15 countries. So I've been shouting out Helsinki for the last fucking 8 or 9 months, and there's no one listening from there. So I fucked that up.
Shout out to Gutenberg.
I'm going to bring this up. Hang on. Okay, here we go. So the Netherlands come in at number 4. So the Dutch, love on that. Then we got all, Australia, New Zealand, UK, US, Ireland, Colombia coming in at number 8. And then Iceland.
Well, I reckon that Colombia will be one of my clients. Shout out to my client in doing his rounds in South America at the moment.
Number 16, Estonia.
I know, right? And there's one I couldn't get on the screenshot for you, the very, very last one.
Right.
Russia.
Oh, Russia. We're coming in, what, 24? 24.
Putin's sitting there trying to become a woke bloke.
Yeah. On his horse with no shirt on, invading other countries, trying to become woke. Number 21.
Oh, no, I've done it again. I've started another war.
I said I wouldn't do this. What's my
Shame to use
shame? A shameful
he's
Putin
jerking off on the back of his horse without a shirt on, crying. I've started another war.
filling up his own vat
It's 44
of
gallons
shameful
rum.
tears. That poor
Oh, it's
horse.
going to be. I know.
Unless the horse likes it. I don't know. I don't want to make judgments about this horse.
Well, you're jumping to a conclusion
I am.
there.
I'm galloping to a conclusion.
So the chat last night after that little digress was it's interesting, but he's a bit worried about the sustainability of things and what what are we leaving people, but then we zoomed out of it and we're like, well, none of it's going to fucking matter one day anyway, because humans are only existing in this tiny little window in the grand scheme of the universe. So
It's interesting
it's
to
all
watch
about.
the generations, though, isn't it? Because obviously, kind of my grandparents and a bit before that, I don't even know what that generation was called, but they were coming out of the war, and so very, very frugal.
Mm,
Hoarding shit, trying to find stuff really cheap, and not wanting to spend on anything that wasn't essential. And then the baby
yeah.
boomers obviously had some better times financially, like you said, and they were splurging and spending money and really just using as many resources as possible, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And then now
Mm-hmm.
this generation, there's X and Y. I think I'm Y. You probably be X. I feel like more of a Gen Xer. But then there's the new one, millennials, all that. And like you said, now like the baby boomers who've been so dominant for a few decades in terms of controlling the wealth and the highest voting population and that kind of thing, but they're dying off now quite quickly. And now we're moving towards more people valuing sustainability, and also I think more people seeing that fulfillment is more than acquiring things. And we're in a fortunate enough position for where people can ask, like, hey, what does actually make me happy? Like, what's going to be good for the planet? What does make me happy? But we're also in a generation now, which, like you said, there's lots of mental illness going around. And I think issues that have always been there to a degree are now having the magnifying glass put on them through the internet, through social media, through constant comparisons, through online bullying, all of this kind of stuff.
I think they're all just a catalyst, all those things. So I think the biggest thing is the human condition. It's the ego and the as we deal in cognitive distortions and not being able to not not learning to put yourself in a position where you can choose how you filter and process all the experiences. We're doing a lot of work with clients at the moment about being the eye behind the eye, the conscious awareness of the construct of Nick, the identity that is Nick. And Ram Dass spoke about it beautifully when he said, the previous version of him, he was Richard Alpert, and his parents helped create his first suit and said, "Here, you are this, wear this suit, and here's some of our conditioning and programming in that suit, and then go off to college and become a psychologist, and then become a professor, and all those suits will be bigger and better and shinier and earn you more money and earn you more prestige and respect and all these things." And then him and Tim Leary dropped the LSD and managed to escape their suits. And when you play around with it from there, it's so many people are in it. They're very in the experience, but so deeply that they're not able to identify that they can observe it without being in it and being so affected by it. So for us, that's all the internet and all the bullying has been around since the dawn of man and whatnot. But all these things, they're catalysts for people's minds to unravel, to go into suffering, and because no one's really, not no one's, sorry, I'll reframe it. Because a lot of people, more people are doing this now, but still there's a massive amount of people that are proactively looking after their mental health and understanding how the mind works and what they can do. The mental health is declining into poor mental health, and then that poor mental health is just either medicated or swept under the carpet or not identified, and that's turning into mental illness. So type 2 diabetes, diabetes is who said that? I heard it the other day sometime. Diabetes is an illness we give ourselves through poor eating, basically, type 2 diabetes. So that's reversible. A lot of the mental health or mental illness that is in existence is reversible through doing the work, as we call it. Yes, there are people who were born with type 1 diabetes or born with mental illness and need medication for life and whatever, but so much of the suffering in the world is simply due to people, the Buddha said the source of all suffering is attachment, but it's also ignorance in a very literal sense. People just aren't understanding, they're not knowing that they're not attending to their own mind and wondering, why do I feel so dissatisfied with everything and beyond that? Why do I feel so stuck and down and anxious and afraid and like I'm under a cloud? It's deeply sad.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think there's a combination of, personal responsibility. And, I really hope that over the time we've been doing this show that people listen to it and start to take a bit of personal responsibility and just say, hey.
Oh man, we've had so many people reach out to us and, I love the podcast, blah, 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 but then they book in a discovery session or they go, I've been listening for, 22 hours non-stop and I'm going to, it's given me the incentive to reach out and ask for help. So, as I said, a lot more people are starting to take that leap. But
and we have to step out of obviously the way culture has things set up at the minute, because, right now it's like and I think one of the reasons why a lot of young people as well, especially in this day and age, are struggling with their mental health is because it's hard to find out where we fit in such a large scale society. You know what I mean? It's like where we spend most of our evolution in hunter-gatherer tribes, and it's like, hey, we're going to grow up and this will be your role, and this is the elders, they're the people that you learn from, and this will be your role in the tribe, and it's going to help us survive and be able to eat and keep us safe. And now it's just it's very hard without the proper mentors, and ideally our parents are great mentors, but unfortunately they're not for a lot of people because they didn't have great mentors, and so people are like, well, where the hell do I fit into this thing? There's fucking millions of people either in the town that I live in, the city, or in this online space that we're constantly plugged into. And like, how do I find a role and a purpose and something to make me feel significant? So we seek significance in other ways that aren't in the long term beneficial for our mental health. And so, looking at it from a large scale, it's like, how do we control the mental health or the behaviors that come from poor mental health on a large scale? And the option at the minute is, let's try and sedate people as much as possible.
Well,
so they stop doing loud behaviors.
Yeah, but it's cause and effect, and cause, symptom, and root cause, and it's so much of the focus is on the symptom, and it's like medicating that to stop it. But when I'm listening to you, people are like, oh, where do I fit in it? You can hear in that the anxiety, you can hear the fear in that, you can hear I having been one of these people myself for so long, they're not grounded within themselves. There's not a sense of contentedness within themselves, for themselves, for their own experience. There's this sense of deficiency running through them still. So I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I don't have enough friends. I'm not liked enough. I don't have enough views on the social media. I don't have blah, blah, blah. And so when there's that, I love the quote that he who is properly grounded within himself does not need to look outside for approval. And it just speaks of an inner strength. It speaks of it's not an arrogance. It's not a dismissive, I won't listen to anyone. It's not a closed mind, but it is a deep inner strength and an inner knowing, know thyself, know thyself. Such so simple. It's so beautiful because people don't sit there and get to know themselves. They don't. The dude, the Daryl the Dome dude, as is now known, he came up here to drop off the domes one night, and it was raining, and a trench had just been filled in from Sparkies who were doing some work, and he got stuck, and he got my tractor. He just made a mess of everything, and then he drove off because he was in such a rush. And I said to him last night, it's interesting. You talk about sustainability of the planet, but within yourself, you're not operating sustainably. You just bang, 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 and he's like, oh, yeah, right. And it was this. It's a beautiful trait within you, this drive to achieve and get things done and whatnot. But it's also your double-edged sword. So, having not known myself for the first 30 years, or I knew my ego, but I didn't know my nature. Getting to sitting there and getting to know your nature and understanding your nature, understanding what are your strengths and weaknesses, what are your double-edged swords, what are your tendencies, what are your traits I'm very caring. When that gets out of balance, I care too much and I start taking over and become a bit controlling because it's anxiety. So I'm going to be very mindful of just balancing that out from time to time. And so knowing myself, it puts me in a position where I can then self-manage and self-regulate that sense of ownership that you're talking about before.
Yeah, I think we'll always try and know ourselves or define ourselves, but if we don't know ourselves the way, like know thyself the way you're talking about it, then we will constantly define ourselves by the way other people react to us and what other people say about us. So it's like, if I don't go inside and know thyself, then the only way I can know is via a reflection. And so I'm constantly, we're not saying this, it's just a feeling that we get, but it's like, validate me. please try and show me who I am. And so then instead of being this,
or tell me who I am,
tell me who I am.
People will go chasing. I will try and become you. I'll start wearing the clothes that you're wearing because I'm lost.
Yeah. And so then we are no longer are grounded as our unique expression of being a human being. I'm just this conglomeration of opinions about me. And so that's why people then, they have trouble knowing what they really want, because what they think they want is actually just what other people think would be good for them. But in their heart, there's a part of them, like whether you want to call that their soul, you were talking about the eye behind the eye, there's a deep part of them that's like, this doesn't feel right. But
you can tell when someone's aligned with their authentic self, and you can tell when someone's wearing a suit. I think, can't you? It's this. You can see the little insecurities, and they're looking around, the constant checking, the oh god, or the constant change. They keep, they'll be a goth one minute, and then they'll be a bloody jock, and then they'll be a nerd, and then they keep just going through all these different things. And it's they're trying to find their tribe, but they don't probably understand that just by being themselves, their tribe will find them. You start
and you're right. They
attracting
don't. You're right. We don't, like before I was speaking about, when we're younger, it's like, I need to fit in and find a purpose within this structure and everything. It's like we don't actually have those thoughts. Like we don't kind of have that capacity.
No, it's not conscious.
It's like just this inner feeling. It's like this inner disturbance or anxiety. It's something where it's like, this isn't quite right. Something's not quite, in alignment. Something's not quite right. It's just this feeling, this agitation that we have. And for a lot of people, it hangs around, for God's sake, for decades.
And when I went through the metanoia, I found through that process a belief system that was full of beliefs that weren't aligned to my authentic self. And it was all just conditioning through society, TV, and school, and parents, and grandparents, and and it wasn't bad or good. It was just not aligned with what I truly felt. So a lot of that I had to discard, and that's where I talk to clients about. I replaced all that foundation, that belief system. I replaced that foundation with philosophy, and then that gives me resources now that aren't black or white. They're not temporary preferences. They're not things that are going to sort of run out in the next 5 years or whatever. They're, when I'm up in this experience, moving to Queensland and out of your comfort zone, you've got a lot going on and heaps of money. It's like, right, I've just got to lean into that sense of trust that I cultivated through that process. And whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. That's a philosophy that I really embedded when I was rewiring myself. It's like, well, it's all going to be okay. It's going to be a little bit out of my comfort zone, or it's going to be something I haven't experienced, or it's going to be, it's going to feel whatever it needs to be, but it's going to be okay. And so I've got all these resources within me that I can call upon. It's oh fuck, this is hard. Do I really have to do that? And then the sort of voice will do what's required. do what's required. And I'm like, it's not about what I want or what I prefer or what I think. It's just about do what's required. Okay, thanks, buddy. And so now I've got this inner support. It's that's the foundation of Nick now, and that's benefiting me as a human and as a soul and as everything else that we are, much greater than 30 years of wiring off beliefs like that's right and that's wrong and that's this and that's the ego is just constantly judging and oh, that's not fair. Well, I'm entitled to that, and
and so someone might be listening right now, and they're like, I fucking know who I am. Wait, I fucking know who I am. But you got to ask yourself this question. It's like, am I constantly trying to get what I want? Am I constantly trying to avoid things that I don't want? If somebody criticizes me or says something that I don't like, do I get offended by that? Does that really, irk me? And in that case, I would say you don't really know yourself. You just identified with that suit that you're wearing, because that's why when we don't step the eye behind the eye, that phrase you used at the start of the show, when we're not stepped behind kind of watching this whole show, then we take things so seriously. And we're constantly trying to manipulate outside circumstances so that we're okay. Just us, we're okay.
So I'm in a position where I can watch Nick, as you're saying, an example is I can watch Nick go in and out of neurosis. I can watch Nick fall into an old tendency or an old habit. But I'm in a position where I can then employ compassion. I experience compassion. It just comes out of. Doesn't come out of me. It's just a state that I experience is compassion for that version. And because I'm not beating him up or you fucking idiot, you did it again or whatever, because I'm not trying to put him down, I can build him up. And I can now shift in and out of the two different eyes, and the main goal for me is to be the eye behind the eye, but I still love being Nick. I don't want to escape the human experience. I want Nick to turn up at a golf course with Hassan for us to throw shade at each other and to have a few beers and to, it's not all rainbows and unicorn tears. It's
like a dual awareness. I've been reading a bit of A.H. Almas recently, and it's like you're rammed ass and I'm into Almas. Anyway, we've got something about asses, don't we?
I never. So I thought I escaped my binary. I mean, tits are an ass man, and I didn't think I was either. But
clearly an ass man, both of us. And he talks about there's the man of the world and the man of spirit, or the woman of the world and the woman of spirit, and how we can just get lost in both. But ideally, we have a really nice integration of both, which is just exactly what you're talking about. It's like, hey, I'm Ryan and you're Nick, and we have great fun being a human being. The whole time, though, we're kind of watching it, knowing that we're actually something different to that. But we're in both, because some people as well, they go, maybe they do get stuck in the world and they're in materialism and on that hamster wheel and got the golden handcuffs on, and they have some sort of awakening or experience and they find this kind of spiritual realm, but then they want to escape and stay there because it's more comfortable. So if I dissociate, if I meditate, 3 hours a day and dissociate, then, that's my safe space, so to speak. But that's still, I would say that's an imbalanced experience, I think, of what we're here for, because there's a great saying, I think, I can't remember if it's Greek or something, but it's like, that the gods envy us because they don't get to drink coffee or have sex. It's like we're here to do human things, and whatever's next, we're not sure, but I don't reckon I'll be drinking, coffee and having sex, or it might be looking a little bit different in the next life, or playing golf or whatever it is,
And even the word life, I've been playing around with this at the moment, and the next life. The philosophy that death is just another moment for the soul. We've coined this experience as life, or this existence is as life. But do we go into the next life, or do we just keep existing and experiencing, just in a different form? So it's funny how we've decided that these are lives, or this is life.
I think about that quite a bit, because I read a bit and listen to stuff around, the universe, and obviously the Big Bang and what possibly happened before that. What other theories are there? What's happening to the universe? Is it constantly expanding forever, or will it?
What's the universe in? What's it expanding into?
Yeah, and I've been thinking about the same thing. I'm like, it seems like, because we're on Earth here, and seemingly things have a start and an end. It's like our life, like animals, like plants grow and they decay, and there's this start and end. But on this universe level, or even beyond that, like even the idea of a beginning and end, those laws may not apply. It's like there's no, and totally. As a human being, like part of me starts to like freak out a little bit. I'm like, no start and end, just everything forever. But that may be a possibility, which ties into what you're talking about. Maybe it's just there's no start and end. There's just forever.
I love it. It's just that. Well, I'm thinking about the samsara, I can't remember what it is. There's a circle that's not
wheel of samsara.
Complete. No, there's a circle that's not quite complete. Okay. I'll send that show to you one day. But it's like, everything there is no. That's what I mean by life. There's no start of life and end of life. There's just a continued experience. But the ego and the human construct needs there to be a start and end. But beyond that, the soul's just like, oh, really? We're doing that again this time? Oh, yeah, all right. Yeah, we'll have a start and an end if that's what placates your funny little human mind and your neurosis that comes from that. And
all right, we'll play that game. It's like we're a little child, I know you're not going to wrap your little bloody brain around this one, so let's just do a start and an end. If that makes you feel more comfortable, we'll do it.
We'll put all these labels on things for you. It is like we're children. It's like, here's the labels. All right, you can get these toys. Play with your toys. Don't play with them too much, though, because I can take them away from you at any moment. And don't take it. Oh God, people take things so seriously, don't they? Things are very important. I occasionally get on Facebook, in the community groups. There's an Agnes Water community group, and someone will post something, and I'll go, all right, I'm gonna see what the temperature's like out there, and I'll start reading through the comments, just objectively observing them, and I'll like, oh wow, this person's like, have you done this? And they're very serious, and part of me wants to start typing and go, oh, you must be the fun at parties or something. Part of me wants to get involved and engage, and thankfully swat that hand away. But it's so weird just watching what people who are deeply in those experiences I was alluding to before. This is important. This is the most important thing in existence.
I was at a cafe. You're making me remember a couple of months ago. I think I was there just by myself and on my way just observing. And I noticed this, archetype in me as well at different periods. That's why I laugh at these things. But I was sitting there, and this young lady was sitting at the table by herself. This beautiful young lady, she's sitting there very attentive and, by obviously waiting for someone who, wasn't coming. And the staff knew her, and they're like, oh, what's he doing? So, oh no, he's coming. He might have stood me up, having a bit of a joke. And so this bloke arrives, she was sitting there for 20 minutes, maybe more. He rocks up.
What were you doing there for 20 minutes?
I just sipped coffee and I just look around.
Observe. Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting at a table, I was having lunch and everything, so I was just sitting around.
Yeah. Right.
And yeah, he rocks up, and first thing he does is like you can see he's looking around, making sure everyone's looking at him. She's sitting there. He speaks to her for about 10 seconds, then he's got his phone out the whole time, and she's just sort of looking at him. And after a little while, she kind of gave up and got on her phone. And he's on the messages, then on the phone. Hey, we've got to get this done, and we'll do this and do that. And then I just in my head, I'm just like imagine this archetype, this little man, like he's wound up at the back, and he's like, "I'm an important man doing important things." And I'm like, little does he know, whatever he's on the phone about is fucking pointless. But I was sitting across from this woman and looking her in the eyes and connecting. When he gets to the end of his life, that was probably the thing he wanted to be doing more of, not the phone thing. I noticed it in me. So sometimes now, if I start to do something, I'm like, "Oh, I'm that little man going. I'm a busy man doing important things."
I was picturing if I was, how we insert ourselves into a narrative when we're listening, and I thought if I'm sitting there, I'd want to just sort of sneak up and just go, "It's okay, come with me, come and sit at my table, and we can actually have a conversation."
Mate, I had you had the amount of times I had those thoughts, but I'm kind of like, hey, that's both of their dharma. They gotta work that out. It's not for me. And plus, if they're like, am I cutting this guy's lunch here? What am I doing?
Well, yeah, it becomes sort of creepy. Hey, do you want to come and sit with me? Because then you appear to be the very important.
Yeah. I almost just wanted, as I left, just go, you deserve better than this, and then kind of leave. But I'm like, let's not insert myself.
Pick his phone up and
drop it in the coffee.
Water. Drop it in water or something. Have you watched Yellowstone?
No.
The show on Stan.
You like it?
I'm really captivated by the writing of it. The writing is like the dynamics of the relationships are really, really interesting. There's a very unhealed daughter who is in constant suffering and conflict, and then the actress plays the role amazingly well. Kevin Costner is sort of the dad, the lead role. And yeah, it's based in Montana. They're just cowboys and whatnot. But it's really, really interesting. And he's a little bit toxic himself. But in an episode I watched recently, and this sensitive topic, it may trigger some viewers. So it's about children passing away. So but I've had clients whose children have passed away when very young, and yeah, always heartbreaking doing that work, but also amazing doing that work with them as well. And the writing for Kevin Costner's character, his daughter-in-law was driving herself to hospital when she was having contractions. She was pregnant, and she hit an animal on the road and lost the baby. And at the funeral, it's just he ends up sitting with her, just reflecting. He says, "Oh, I haven't told anyone this, but I had a brother for 18 minutes. He had a weak heart and didn't survive. But he then said, and 30 years later, we're at something, and my dad came up with this amazing thing, and he said that boy had the perfect life." And I was like, "Okay, where's this going?" And he said, "For 18 minutes, that baby wouldn't have known what minutes was, so there was just existence and experience. And for 18 minutes, all he had was mother's love for 18 minutes." And he said it was such an intense reframe, going from taken too soon and it's not fair and the amount of grief and suffering, and a massively intensive reframe to he had the perfect life. And you're like, fuck, my mind was just going.
Yeah. What a line.
Yeah.
What a line.
And you sit with that for a minute, and you're just like, Jesus, it's such a depth of truth to that.
Yeah, it's like when you
So
see a mayfly. A mayfly lives for 24 hours or something around then. And when I see one of them, I kind of honor it. I'm like, oh, look at you go. Look at you on this
mm,
journey. This thing. I hope you're living every
mm,
second, whatever mayflies do.
yeah, it's
Yeah, what a
really
reframe. It's crazy. It's because immediately it's like all these things, they shouldn't happen. Life's unfair if people are religious, or it's all in God's plan, or the other way. Fuck God for making this happen and all that kind of
if there
stuff.
was a God, why would he only let a baby with Satan? That's blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah, yeah, but how we
Worth watching. Worth
yeah, no, I'm
watching.
due for a new series, so I might jump on and have a bit of a look.
Yeah, especially the work that we do, observing it from through that lens occasionally, it's like, wow, there's okay, some trauma going on there.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
mm,
I see it everywhere, mate. I watched like pretty much every show or movie I watch. That's all I see. People's trauma and their
mm.
trauma response. Have you seen the Joker, the one with
Yeah,
yeah, that the what's if yeah, Joaquin Phoenix or whatever his name is, who plays
yeah,
the Joker. It's just
Joaquin
yeah,
Phoenix.
yeah, just such a of trauma, and also how a lot of society, treats those that are truly have been through trauma and are mentally ill as a result. So it's really,
Mm,
really, it's really sad, but at the same time, incredibly beautiful depiction,
mm,
of that
mm,
character. Very, very deep.
mm. I see it everywhere, and it's funny when clients come in and I spoke about Dan, who's working with us. This sort of term Myndfit is the intersection of waking up and growing up. And it's funny when clients come in and they've taken the blindfold off them, they can see their own suffering and the cause for their own suffering, poor mental health. Um, and then when they do a certain amount of work and they're more stable and they're more, all right, I'm okay, and they can start looking around them, they they come in and they're like, it's fucking everywhere. Everyone's doing
Yeah.
this. This is prevalent. Does anyone else know this? Like Nick, should we ring someone? Is there a government agency that we should alert to the fact that so many people are as trapped in, stuck in their egos and their suits and their their importance of their beliefs and and I'm like, no, it's all perfect. And I'm like, what do you mean it's perfect? How can this be perfect? And you're like, well, you'll keep doing
You
the work,
you you'll work it
you'll get
out
there.
after you get frustrated about it for about 8 or 9 months, and then you'll learn to accept it. It's like seeing through the matrix. Like you can start to read the code all of a sudden, but then people, once they
Mm,
do that, they then want to go out and start telling friends and family and co-workers to wake up. But it's like people who are in the
yeah,
matrix, they don't want to be told they can do things differently. It's like we've got to just work. It's like me not interjecting at that couple at the table. It's like just let them have their experience, unless they specifically are looking for it, which is obviously why
yeah,
we see clients and do the work that we do. But a
yeah.
lot of people don't want to get told, but people get very excited. I was like that. I got pretty
Oh,
excited early on.
there was a very naive young therapist called Nick who was hell bent on healing the whole entire world. And taking this to the masses. He was on a mission. I think I even said in one stage, not a soldier anymore, but still on a mission or something like that. It was just, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, fuck, really, dude?
I love that kind of stuff. I love it.
No.
I see like a memory of Facebook posts of stuff when I was first starting out. I'm like, Paul, he was fired up. He was fired up.
The passion was burning.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's good fun though, different epochs of
it's
life,
amazing.
It is amazing. It is good. But
It's but it's good. It's even better to be able to sit and mindfully reflect on those things and just have a laugh and have an appreciation of the growth and the maturing, I suppose, and not a maturing in a getting more serious, but a maturing in. I don't know. I think for me, maturing is probably more of a letting go. Maturing is becoming lighter. It's not an age maturing. It's a cultivating all these things that we're doing to freedom. It's a liberation.
That's what it's
To me.
felt like to me. Yeah, maturing. It's like when we're young, we have this idea of what maturing is, and it's like, oh, I've got to get more serious, and I've got to, get my brow's got to be furrowed a little bit. That little line that people get.
Yeah.
I was listening to a Jordan Peterson talk about he does, breakdowns of these archetypal Disney movies like Pinocchio and The Lion King and all
Yeah.
that. The Lion King one, he's talking about when Simba comes back and now he's, been through some stuff and he's got these now. He's got like most men should have. They should have this furrowed brow when they get older. I'm like, fuck, it doesn't sound great to me.
Yeah.
Sounds quite tense if you're being honest. But maturing for me has been just a more of a, I guess, lighter relaxation. I think
Yeah.
emotional stability because everything can sort of water off a duck's back kind of thing, and it feels much.
Well, a lot of I hear a lot. Older people, examples of older people who just stop giving a fuck, and they just start speaking their mind, or saying whatever, and they all of a sudden just become insanely happy because they just stop caring and just like, shut up, you're a
Freedom.
bitch. Yeah, and that's that freedom. But they only reach that point of, and they've gone out of balance still. But they've reached the point of giving no fucks because they spent so much of their life giving so many fucks about the most inconsequential and irrelevant. No, I'm not irrelevant. I won't. I'm not the authority on what's relevant, what's irrelevant. But you know what I mean. Like that, this is very important, and that has to be different. So,
Like you said, it's
um,
imbalanced. If we tie it back into what we've been talking about, it's like the suit analogy from Ram Dass. It's like our suit is just made up of ideas of who we think we are, and we're very strongly
yeah,
identified with it. So then every interaction that I come into, I have to have that suit on and have to reinforce, the fact that or what that suit represents. And so whether I'm going into work, I'm catching up with family, I'm seeing friends, I'm always reinforcing the suit. So I'm always suited up.
mm-hmm.
And there's an effort to having that suit on. Suits aren't comfortable to wear all the
Mm-hmm.
time. They're not. They look good, but they're not comfortable to wear all the time. And so
Well,
after,
I imagine walking around in a suit of armor. Let's use that as a metaphor. You're
yeah,
walking around in a suit of
okay,
armor.
yeah, it's
How heavy is
heavy,
that going
it's
to get?
uncomfortable. That's right.
Cumbersome.
And then we get to a point, like you said, and maybe the end is nigh and we're getting older. And for a lot of people, that's the time where they're like, fuck this. I'm sick of wearing this fucking thing. And then it comes off. But then, like I said, it's out of balance because now it's just like a free for all, telling people to fuck off and all that kind of stuff. And whereas like, if we can relax into not having to have that suit on now, then it's just we will get lighter over time because then it gets reinforced that we don't have to have the suit on because we're so scared of not having the suit on and then being criticized. So did I freeze then for a second? It's saying that I'm unstable,
Yeah,
but I am
you
unstable.
are unstable.
I'm a little bit unstable. And so when we have that suit on all the time, then when we have the suit off in certain situations, then we realize, hey, I don't have to have this suit on all the time. People will still accept me and love me, the people who really matter, without this suit. And so now I can go more naked, or maybe it's more comfortable
Well,
into certain situations.
the suit's a protective mechanism. The suit's a protective mechanism, but learning so the identity of Nick, the construct of Nick, learning when to put that on and when to take it off is really important. But to not go from one end of the spectrum to the other, it's that suit of armor, that's deep anxiety and fear of getting hurt, and my opinion matters, and the ego is in full flight. To then just giving absolutely no fucks. The ego is still in full flight. It's just in a different way.
Mm.
It's gone from nothing can hurt me, and you're like, well, you don't want to go from fully suited up to butt naked. You want to have a little bit of something going on in the middle there. So
Yeah.
I don't know, just for listeners to play around with that concept of when do I need to be this, and when can I just sort of sit in a cafe and observe as just I'm just going to go and be conscious awareness. for
Yeah.
half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've had people literally do that exercise, like go grab a coffee, cafe, but just don't be you. Don't feel the pressure to be you.
Don't have an opinion. Don't have an opinion. Don't. Yeah, try that. Try not having an opinion for it. Go 24 hours without having an opinion.
But yeah, you watch. You go to the cafe and not have an opinion, and you watch this mind. You watch it kick them up. But then it's up to you what you do with that. You know, can you just step back and observe that? Because you'll sit there and go, no opinions. That waitress looked at me funny. Why'd she put the coffee there? She didn't bring this out. Did they get my order right? It's like, listen to this thing go.
That's the key. It's like you the suit can't stop having an opinions, but you can watch the suit have opinions, and that's the beauty of it. And it's I think I spoke about it a couple of episodes ago when I stopped drinking and just listens to this hilarious narrative going, but no, we can do this, and the justifications and the temper, the adult tantrum it was having because it wasn't getting what it wanted, and just sitting back and just had the most beautiful experience, just witnessing that whole thing going on.
Yes.
Like, and just keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep on going.
All of these thoughts and opinions that you think are you, there's another part of you that's watching them. So see if you can start to find out a bit more about that part. I think that's a really important exercise, because then you have choice. Then you can just let them just float by. You don't have to act on all these irrational ideas and opinions that the mind kicks up.
That's awesome, isn't it? I don't the impulsive thoughts and the desires and everything. It's amazing. It's an amazing amount of freedom when you get into a position where you realize, I don't have to act on that. I don't have to, just because I'm hearing it, and it's coming from in there somewhere. I don't have to obey all of these demands that are coming out, because imagine which part of you is forming the demands and how angry is it, or how entitled is it, or how needy is it. I need this, go and get me that. It's like we're the puppets of, there's something inside of us pulling these strings going, I want that, I need that, go and do that, dismiss that, reject that, and attain more of that. Yes, sir, yes, sir. So we're sort of slaves unto ourselves until we learn to escape the suits.
Yeah. Imagine if that was a person sitting there. Imagine if I was sitting next to you saying that all the time. You'd be like, Hass, I've fucking had enough of your shit. I've got to go. Can you get out of my house?
Mute button. Where's the mute button on the remote?
Mute me.
What would your if you went and did all the work around dusted, what name would you want to get? You become a dust. What would you what do you want to be?
I don't know. It just seems so cliche to have that, that's person go and do ayahuasca, have a spiritual experience and change their name.
Come on, put your suit on for a minute.
Do I have to have a dust?
Yeah, it's going to be a dust.
Because I'm trying to be serious on one hand and silly on the other hand. So I'm trying to be serious.
I'm gonna be dong dust. or ram dong.
For those who don't know, me and Nick are going on a Vietnam golf trip in February.
And we haven't done this yet, have we?
Yeah, it was a great moment. I'll never forget Nick's face, because we were at Flight Centre organising our flights and travel arrangements for the golf trip, having a bit of banter, having a laugh. The lady was probably a little bit, these guys are dickheads. I entertained at the same time. And then I turned to Nick. I genuinely had no idea. It was a very genuine moment. I looked at Nick in the eye and said, Nick, what's the currency in Vietnam? And before he said anything, Nick's face just said to me, oh, we're going to have some fun with this.
I got this. I've been waiting my whole life for this moment.
The biggest smile I've ever seen. And Nick looks at me and goes, the dong. And so the Vietnamese dong. So ever since that happened a couple of months ago, we can't stop making dong jokes, and that's going to continue up until and during our Vietnam golf trip. Because part of our human experience is making funny penis jokes, and we find it really entertaining.
And you can't imagine what it's like for the two of us to have the same sense of humor and to be going on this golf trip together. And we're going to be seeing a lot of each other's dong. That's how easy it is, people. I just wanted to give a little example of how
beats me at golf, I may just slip my dong into his back pocket. All right, that's enough. That's enough dong jokes. Don't start me, because I have a Christmas family lunch today, and I'm going to be consumed with making dong jokes in my head.
Well, we need all dong jokes aside, we do need to go to the currency exchanger and ask how much dong can they handle. So we
How much dong can you comfortably hand over to me right now? Oh, look, it depends how much you pay.
You calling me a whore?
Yeah, it's all right. So we'll leave you with that. We'll leave you with a couple of dong jokes. We hope that's lightened up your day a little bit, but also this theme of knowing thyself. If you feel called to do a bit of introspection, go to the cafe as conscious awareness, try not to have an opinion, then watch the opinions arise, and then see if you can not get caught up or swept away in them. And we hope you've taken value from this show.
Or observe how gleeful you are as you playfully express dong jokes or silliness. Like while Hassan and I were talking, then I was literally the eye behind the eye and seeing how much joy the construct of Nick was having, bouncing his dong around. It was so. And that's just a beautiful example of
bouncing his dong around.
I actually don't know why I said that.
I've never heard that. I'm glad you did, because the visual in my head is so interesting.
I couldn't have imagined putting those words into a sentence. But I did, so you're welcome. Sorry, listeners. Oh, wow.
All right. Let's wrap it up there. I've got to get ready for Christmas lunch. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
It's coming up to Christmas as we re-record. We might do a little Christmas one next week if you've got the space, Nico.
Oh, well, we've also had 10,000 streams, and we're at the end of the year, just on Spotify. We're not the other. I don't know what's happening on iTunes yet, but thank you, everybody, for the support throughout this year and last year, and I think it was the year before, and we're coming up to episode 100 soon. So we'll probably do that in Vietnam. Maybe it might be the handing over
bring
of
up
the
ton, bring up the century.
Yeah.
Stop, Ryan. I can't stop. This is good. This is like when it first happened. The mind just starts flooding dong jokes into my head. And we really appreciate the feedback as well. We've been getting messages and emails lately, like Nick said at the start, and they say, look, I don't know for what it's worth, but it means a lot to me, this show. And it's like, it means fucking heaps to us, to be honest, because to hear that somebody can start to interact with themselves and the people around them in a different way and be exposed to new ideas and have an open mind. That's the reason why we do the show. And we love that kind of stuff. So thank you for listening, and thank you to those who sent us messages about the show.
Boom.
See you all later.